Hello everybody. So today we're still solving equations, but today we are going to look at how we use factorizing to solve equations. And before I do that, I want you to look at this beautiful piece of reasoning. If I have a product of factors, for instance, if I have two numbers, a times b, and I say, for instance, they must be equal to 6. There's a number of possibilities that will solve this equation or make it true. For instance, if I start and say if a is 1, then what must b be? 1 times what will give you 6? Then it follows that b must be 6. Or if a is 2, then b obviously must be 3. Otherwise your equation won't be true. And for a equal to 3, b must then be 2. And for a equal to 6, b must be 1. So I've got a lot of possibilities here that will solve this equation. But now look at the following. If I have a product of two numbers, a times b, and I say it must be equal to 0, what possible solutions can you think of for this equation? What will make it true? And here you have to remember what is the rule when I multiply with 0. Yes, you remembered. It means everything, anything, any number times 0 will be equal to 0. So this makes it very easy to solve because it means if a is 0, then what must b be? And it actually means that b can be anything. B can be any number because any number times 0 will give you 0. Or if b is 0, then a can be any number. So a can be an element of any real numbers, which is any number, because 0 times any number is 0. Therefore, from this you can see that either a must be 0 or b must be 0, or both. So, how does this now bring us to factorizing? I have a product of factors equal to 0, then it means either of the factors must be 0. Let's look at another example. If I have x times b minus 1 equal to 0, what is the solutions? There's two factors here. The one is x, the other one is the bracket. So either x must be 0 or the bracket b minus 1 must be equal to 0. And when will this be 0? Therefore, if b is 1, then the bracket will become 0 because 1 minus 1 will give you 0. So there's my solution. Either x must be 0 or b must be 1. Or let's look at another one. If I have x plus 2, b plus 1 equal to 0, I have a product of factors on the left-hand side. To make this equation true and to make it 0, it means either this factor, the x plus 2, must be 0, or the other factor, b plus 1, must be 0. So it's easy to solve now. What must this x be in this bracket to make it 0? Yes, x must be negative 2, because negative 2 plus 2 give you 0. And for the other bracket, or the other factor, what must b be? B must be equal to negative 1. And do you see where inverse operations come in here? To solve for x here, what do? I get rid of plus 2. So I subtract 2 on both sides, and I get negative 2. To solve this equation, What must b be? I don't want plus 1 there, so I subtract 1 on both sides, which means that b must be negative 1. So, can you see where all of this is going? If I have an expression, ladies and gentlemen, and I have, for instance, x squared minus x equal to 0, and I have to solve the equation, then what can I do now? How can I use this to solve this equation? Yes, you can factorize because you have a highest common factor here, which is x. So I can take x out as my highest common factor, and in my bracket then if I divide x squared by x, I will get x minus x divided by x is 1 equal to 0, and I go from 2 terms on the left hand side to one single term or a product of factors, which now makes it very easy to solve because either one of these factors must be 0. Therefore, x must be 0, or the bracket x minus 1 must be 0. So what will make this bracket 0? Yes, if I add 1 on both sides to solve the equation, I get x must be 1. Right. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, what are you going to do now? Let me just clean this and make some space here. What have we learned from all of this? So if I have an expression, say for instance, I have a squared equal to a. So now, how do I solve this equation? What do I want? I want factors on the one side and 0 on the other side. So what do? I'm simply going to take the a to that side by subtracting with a on both sides. And I'm going to get a squared minus a equals 0, which now give me 2 terms on the left-hand side and 0 on the other side. I want 0 on the other side because then it's easy. And I can factorize this. I have a highest common factor, so I can take a out as the highest common factor, and I divide a squared by a, and I get a minus a divided by a is 1, and I get 0. So, I go back to my original reasoning. If one of these two factors are 0, my equation is solved. Therefore, I can say a must be 0, or the bracket a minus 1 must be 0. So what must that be? I add 1 on both sides to get a alone, and I get a must be equal to 1. Equation solved. Either 0 or a equal to 1 will make this true. Right, I hope you understand that and you are ready to try the exercise in worksheet 3.